She spent 32 years making everyone else comfortable, until the day she decided to make herself uncomfortable instead. Lisa had always been the good girl, the one who followed every rule, met every expectation, and never caused any trouble. At 32, she worked at one of the biggest marketing companies in the city. Her desk was always clean, her reports were always on time, and her boss never had to worry about her. But sitting in that cold conference room on a Tuesday morning, listening to her manager announce that Kevin got the promotion she had worked 3 years for, something cracked inside her chest. Kevin, who came to work late every day. Kevin, who took credit for her ideas in meetings. Kevin, who somehow always got praised while she got more work piled on her plate. Kevin brings fresh energy to the team, her boss said with a smile. We're excited to see where he takes the department. Lisa nodded and clapped along with everyone else. She even congratulated Kevin afterward, shaking his hand with that same polite smile she had perfected over the years. But inside she felt like screaming. That evening, she sat in her apartment staring at the city lights through her window. Everything around her was exactly how she thought it should be. Clean white walls, matching furniture, fresh flowers on the table. It looked like a magazine photo, but it felt empty, just like she did. She opened her laptop and looked at her work calendar for tomorrow. Back-to-back meetings, a presentation she didn't believe in, and lunch with clients who barely remembered her name. When had her life become so predictable? When had she become so invisible? Her phone buzzed. A text from David, her boyfriend of 2 years. Can't make dinner tomorrow. Big client meeting came up. Rain check? She stared at the message for a long time before typing back, of course no problem. But it wasn't no problem. It was the 4th time this month he had canceled their plans. And she always said it was fine because that's what Lisa did. She made everything easy for everyone else. The next morning, something strange happened. On her way to work, she bumped into her old college friend Rachel at the coffee shop. Rachel looked exactly the same, but somehow completely different. Her hair was wild and curly, not straightened like Lisa's. She wore bright colors and silver jewelry that made noise when she moved. Lisa, oh my gosh, I barely recognized you, Rachel said, pulling her into a big hug. You look so professional. They sat down together and Rachel told her about her life. She owned a small art studio now, teaching painting classes to kids and adults. She lived in a tiny apartment above the studio with her partner Alex. She didn't make a lot of money, but her eyes lit up when she talked about her work. I remember in college. You used to paint all the time, Rachel said. Those landscapes you did were incredible. Do you still paint? Lisa felt heat rise in her cheeks. She hadn't touched a paintbrush in over 10 years. Oh, that was just a hobby. I grew out of it, Rachel tilted her head. Grew out of it? You were so passionate about it. You said you wanted to travel the world and paint different places. The conversation felt like looking at photos of someone else's life. Had she really wanted those things? It seemed impossible now. She was an adult with responsibilities, bills to pay, and a career to think about. But walking back to her office, pieces of old dreams floated through her mind like ghosts. She remembered staying up late in her dorm room, painting until her fingers were stained with colors. She remembered talking for hours about all the places she wanted to see, the life she wanted to live. At work, she sat through another meeting where her ideas were overlooked. She watched as her male colleagues interrupted each other, spoke over her, and somehow always ended up taking charge of projects she had suggested. She had learned to smile and nod, to be grateful for whatever small role she was given. During lunch, she walked past an art supply store. Without thinking, she stopped and looked in the window. Tubes of paint lined the shelves like little soldiers of possibility. Brushes of every size hung in neat rows. Canvas stretched tight and ready, waiting for someone to bring them to life. A young woman inside the store was holding a palette covered in bright blues and greens, mixing colors with the focus of a scientist. She looked happy in a way Lisa couldn't remember feeling, free in a way that seemed impossible. That afternoon, Lisa found herself checking her bank account. She had saved so much money by never doing anything spontaneous, never taking risks. The numbers stared back at her like a scorecard for a game she wasn't sure she wanted to win anymore. Her boss stopped by her desk around 5 o'clock. Lisa, I need you to stay late tonight and fix the Johnson presentation. Kevin made some mistakes, but the client meeting is first thing tomorrow. Lisa looked at her computer screen, then at her boss, then at the clock on the wall. She thought about Rachel's paint-stained fingers and bright smile. She thought about all the late nights she had worked to fix other people's mistakes while they got the credit. "Actually," she heard herself saying, "I can't stay late tonight." Her boss looked surprised. In 5 years, Lisa had never said no to overtime. "This is important, Lisa. The client specifically asked for you to handle this." "Then maybe the client should work with me directly next time, instead of having someone else mess it up first," she said. The words came out before she could stop them. Her boss's eyebrows shot up and Lisa felt her stomach drop. Had she really just said that out loud? "We'll discuss this tomorrow," her boss said in a cold voice before walking away. Lisa packed up her desk with shaking hands. She had just done something she never did. She had put herself first. It felt terrifying and exciting at the same time. On the subway ride home, she called her mom. "I think I made a mistake at work today," she said. "What kind of mistake, honey?" I stood up for myself. There was silence on the other end. Then her mom laughed. Not a mean laugh, but a surprised one. "Lisa, you've spent your whole life making everyone else comfortable. Maybe it's time you made yourself comfortable for once." That night, Lisa stood in front of her bathroom mirror and really looked at herself. Her hair was pulled back in the same neat style she had worn for years. Her face looked tired in a way that sleep couldn't fix. When had she become this person? When had she stopped being the girl who dreamed in colors? She thought about the promotion that went to Kevin. She thought about David canceling their plans again. She thought about all the times she had swallowed her words, buried her dreams, and pretended to be happy with less than she deserved. For the first time in years, Lisa felt something stirring inside her. It wasn't anger exactly, though there was some of that. It was more like waking up from a long sleep, like remembering who she used to be before she learned to be invisible. Tomorrow, she decided she would buy those paints. The next morning, Lisa woke up feeling different. Not completely different, but like something small had shifted inside her overnight. She looked at her closet full of gray and navy suits, all hanging in perfect order. For a moment, she considered wearing the red dress she had bought 2 years ago, but never worn because David said it was too much for the office. She put on a navy suit instead, but left the top button undone. It was a tiny rebellion, but it felt like a start. At work, her boss called her into his office first thing. She expected him to be angry about yesterday, but instead he looked tired. "Lisa, you've been with us for 5 years, he said, not looking at her directly. "You're reliable, you do good work, and you never complain." She waited for the but she could hear coming. But yesterday was unprofessional. "We can't have people refusing to do their jobs." "I wasn't refusing to do my job," Lisa said quietly. "I was refusing to fix someone else's mistakes on my own time while they get the credit." Her boss looked surprised again. This new version of Lisa, the one who spoke up, seemed to catch everyone off guard. "That's how teamwork works. Lisa, we all help each other out." "Funny how I'm always the one helping and never the one being helped," she said. The words hung in the air between them. Her boss shifted in his chair, looking uncomfortable for the first time in the 5 years she had known him. "Just don't let it happen again," he said finally. Walking back to her desk, Lisa felt a strange mix of pride and fear. She had stood her ground, but now what? She wasn't sure how to be this new version of herself at a job that expected the old version. During her lunch break, she found herself standing outside the art supply store again. This time she went in. The smell hit her first. Paper and paint and possibility. Her fingers traced along the tubes of paint, remembering how they used to feel in her hands. The woman behind the counter smiled at her. "Looking for anything specific?" "I used to paint," Lisa said. "A long time ago." "Well, paint doesn't go anywhere. It just waits for you to come back." Lisa bought a small set of acrylic paints, 3 brushes, and a canvas that fit in her purse. Walking back to the office with her secret purchase felt like carrying a small piece of rebellion. That afternoon, something happened that changed everything. Lisa was in a meeting about the Henderson account, listening to Kevin present her research as his own ideas. She had given him her notes to collaborate, which really meant he would take credit while she did the work. But this time, when the client asked a detailed question that Kevin couldn't answer, Lisa didn't stay quiet. "Actually," she said, her heart pounding, "the research shows something different." Everyone turned to look at her. Kevin's face went red. "Lisa helped with some background research," Kevin said quickly. "I did all the research," Lisa corrected, her voice stronger now. And the numbers Kevin just presented are wrong. The room went silent. Lisa opened her laptop and showed the real data, explaining the strategy she had developed. The client listened, asked questions, and for the first time in years, Lisa felt like she was actually being seen at work. After the meeting, Kevin cornered her by the coffee machine. "What was that about?" he demanded. "We're supposed to be a team." "Teams don't take credit for other people's work," Lisa said. "I never said it was all my idea. You never said it wasn't." Kevin looked angry, but also confused. This wasn't the Lisa who usually apologized for everything and made everyone else comfortable. "Fine," he said. "Do your own presentations from now on." "I plan to," Lisa replied. That evening, Lisa sat in her apartment with her new paint spread out on her kitchen table. She squeezed blue onto her palette and mixed it with white, watching the colors blend together. Her first brushstroke felt awkward, like using muscles she had forgotten she had. But by the second stroke, something came back to her. Not skill exactly, but memory. The way paint moved, the way colors talked to each other, the way time disappeared when she was creating something. She painted until midnight, losing herself in blues and whites and grays. When she finally stepped back, she had created something simple but beautiful. A sky with clouds that looked like they were actually moving. Her phone buzzed. A text from David. "How was your day?" "Mine was crazy busy." Usually Lisa would text back about her day, ask about his work, make sure he felt heard and supported. Tonight she just wrote, "It was good. Talk tomorrow." She turned off her phone and looked at her painting again. It wasn't perfect, but it was hers. She had made something that didn't exist before, something that came from inside her rather than from what other people expected. The next few days felt like walking on new ground. At work, Lisa started speaking up in meetings. Not aggressively, but clearly. When someone interrupted her, she said, "I wasn't finished." When her ideas were overlooked, she repeated them louder. Her colleagues seemed confused by this change. They were used to Lisa being background music, pleasant and forgettable. Now she was taking up space, having opinions, refusing to disappear. Some people didn't like it. Kevin stopped talking to her entirely. Her boss seemed irritated that she was no longer his most accommodating employee. But other people started to notice her in a different way. The creative director, Amy, stopped by her desk to ask her opinion on campaigns. Clients started requesting her specifically for meetings. At home, David noticed changes too. "You seem different lately," he said over dinner at their usual restaurant. "More intense." "Intense how?" "I don't know." "You're not as easy to talk to anymore." Lisa put down her fork. "What do you mean by easy to talk to?" "You know, before you would just listen and agree with me. Now you have all these opinions about everything." She stared at him across the table. Had she really been that invisible in her own relationship? Had she been so busy being agreeable that she had forgotten to be herself? "Maybe that's because I'm finally sharing what I actually think instead of just telling you what you want to hear," she said. David frowned. "I liked it better before." Those words hit her like cold water. He liked her better when she was smaller, quieter, more convenient. When she took up less space in her own life. That night, Lisa painted again. This time she used red. Over the next few weeks, Lisa felt like she was becoming someone new, or maybe someone she used to be before she learned to hide. The changes started small but grew bigger every day. At work, she stopped saying sorry for things that weren't her fault. When someone bumped into her in the hallway, she didn't apologize. When her ideas were good, she didn't downplay them with phrases like, "This might be stupid," but she just said what she thought. The response from her coworkers was mixed. Some people seemed uncomfortable with this new version of Lisa. They were used to her being the person who made everyone else feel better about themselves, who never challenged anyone or made waves. But Amy, the creative director, started inviting Lisa to bigger meetings. "You have good instincts," she told Lisa one afternoon. "I don't know why you kept them hidden for so long." Lisa didn't know how to explain that she hadn't kept them hidden on purpose. She had just learned, over years of being ignored and talked over, that it was easier to stay quiet than to fight for space that nobody wanted to give her. At home, things with David were getting more complicated. He kept making comments about how she had changed, and not in a way that sounded like he thought it was good. "You never want to just watch movies anymore," he complained one evening when Lisa said she wanted to paint instead of sitting on the couch. "You're always doing something." I like doing things, she said, cleaning her brushes in the kitchen sink. But we used to just relax together. Lisa thought about all those evenings of relaxing, watching shows David chose, ordering food David wanted, talking about David's day while her own went unmentioned. Had that really been relaxing, or had it just been her disappearing? Her painting was getting better. Not professionally good, but better than it had been. More honest somehow. She painted her feelings instead of pretty things. Angry reds when work frustrated her. Deep blues when she felt lonely. Bright yellows when something made her happy. One Saturday, Rachel texted her. Want to come to my studio? I'm teaching a class today and could use an extra pair of hands. Lisa had never been to Rachel's studio. When she walked in, she was amazed. The walls were covered with paintings from students of all ages. Kids' artwork hung next to pieces by adults who were just learning. Everyone was messy and focused and happy. This is incredible, Lisa said, watching a 10-year-old girl mix purple paint with the concentration of a surgeon. Everyone's an artist, Rachel said. Some people just forget for a while. Lisa helped clean brushes and mix colors, and for the first time in months, she felt completely comfortable. Nobody was judging her or expecting her to be anything other than herself. After the class, Rachel showed Lisa some of her own recent work. The paintings were bold and colorful, full of life and movement. I remember when you used to paint like this, Rachel said, pointing to one of Lisa's old college pieces that she had apparently kept all these years. Wild and fearless. I don't think I was ever fearless, Lisa said. Maybe not fearless, Rachel agreed, but you weren't afraid of taking up space. That phrase stayed with Lisa as she drove home. Taking up space. When had she started trying to take up as little space as possible? When had she decided that being small and agreeable was safer than being herself? Monday morning brought a new challenge. There was a presentation for the company's biggest client, and Lisa's boss assigned it to Kevin, even though it was based entirely on Lisa's research and ideas. The old Lisa would have helped Kevin prepare, fixed his mistakes, and watched him get praised for her work. But this Lisa felt something different rising in her chest. Not just frustration, but a kind of fierce determination. She knocked on her boss's office door. I need to talk to you about the Henderson presentation, she said. He looked up from his computer with the expression of someone who didn't want to be interrupted. What about it? I should be presenting it. It's my research, my strategy, my ideas. Kevin is good with clients. He has more experience with presentations. He has more experience taking credit for my presentations, Lisa said. This stops now. Her boss leaned back in his chair, studying her face like he was seeing her for the first time. Lisa, I don't know what's gotten into you lately, but this attitude isn't helping your career. Neither is letting other people take credit for my work. They stared at each other across his desk. Lisa felt her heart pounding, but she didn't back down. Fine, he said finally. You can co-present with Kevin. I'll present alone, or I'll find somewhere else to present my ideas. The words surprised both of them. Lisa had never threatened to quit before. She had never threatened anything before. Are you giving me an ultimatum? I'm telling you what I need to continue working here. After a long pause, he nodded. Fine, but don't make me regret this. Walking back to her desk, Lisa felt like she was floating. She had asked for what she wanted and gotten it. It seemed impossible, but there it was. That evening, she called her mom to tell her about the presentation. I'm proud of you, her mom said. But I have to ask, what happened? You've been different these past few weeks. Lisa thought about it. I think I just got tired of pretending to be smaller than I am. Honey, you were never small. You just forgot how big you could be. After hanging up, Lisa stood in front of her easel with a blank canvas. For the first time in weeks, she didn't know what to paint. She felt too many things at once. Excitement about the presentation, nervousness about standing up to her boss, sadness about how long it had taken her to find her voice again. So she painted all of it, a swirl of colors that didn't make a picture, but somehow told the whole story of who she was becoming. The day of the Henderson presentation arrived like a storm Lisa had been watching approach for weeks. She woke up before her alarm, her stomach full of butterflies and determination in equal measure. Looking in her bathroom mirror, she saw someone she was still getting used to, a woman who looked ready to take up space. She chose her outfit carefully. Not the safe navy suit that had been her uniform for years, but the red dress David had once said was too much. Today, Too much felt exactly right. At the office, she could feel eyes on her as she walked to the conference room. Kevin was already there, shuffling through papers with a confused expression. He had expected to present with her, maybe even instead of her, right up until this morning. "You ready for this?" Amy asked, stopping by Lisa's desk. "I think so," Lisa said, surprised to find that she mostly meant it. "You've got this. Just remember, they asked for you specifically after the last meeting. They want to hear what you have to say." The conference room filled up with executives from both companies. Lisa had been in plenty of these meetings before, but always as a background person, someone who took notes while other people made decisions. Today, she was at the front of the room. She started with the safe presentation she had prepared, the one full of careful language and expected strategies. But halfway through the second slide, something strange happened. She stopped talking and looked around the room at all the faces staring back at her. These people didn't want safe. They had Kevin for safe. They had asked for her because something about her ideas had been different. Real worth listening to. "You know what?" she said, surprising herself. "Let me tell you what I really think we should do." She closed her laptop and started talking from her heart instead of her notes. She told them about the research she had done, the insights she had discovered, the bold strategies she believed could actually work. Her voice got stronger as she talked, and she could see people leaning forward, actually listening. When she finished, the room was quiet for a moment that felt like forever. Then the client started asking questions. Good questions, interested questions, the kind that meant they were taking her seriously. "This is exactly the kind of thinking we were hoping for," the Henderson CEO said. "When can we get started?" After the client left, Lisa sat in the empty conference room feeling like she had just run a marathon. Amy stuck her head through the door. "That was incredible," she said. "Where has that Lisa been hiding?" "I don't think she was hiding," Lisa said. "I think she just forgot she existed." Her boss appeared in the doorway looking like he had swallowed something sour. "Lisa, can I see you in my office?" She followed him down the hall, her heart still racing from the presentation. He closed the door and sat behind his desk with his serious face on. "That wasn't what we discussed," he said. "It was better than what we discussed. You went completely off script. What if it hadn't worked?" Lisa thought about that. "Then I would have failed doing something I believed in instead of succeeding at something that didn't matter." He stared at her like she was speaking a foreign language. "Lisa, I don't know what's happened to you, but this isn't how business works. We follow plans. We stick to strategies. We don't just wing it in front of major clients. I didn't wing it. I told them the truth about what I thought would work best. Your job is to do what I tell you to do, not what you think is best." The words hung in the air between them. Lisa felt something shift inside her, like a door closing on one part of her life and opening on another. "Then maybe this isn't the right job for me," she said quietly. Her boss's eyebrows shot up. "Are you quitting?" "I'm saying that if you want someone who just follows orders without thinking, you should hire someone else. If you want someone who gets results like what just happened in there, then you need to let me do my job the way I know how to do it." They looked at each other across his desk. Lisa felt calm in a way that surprised her. She wasn't angry anymore, just clear about what she needed. "I need to think about this," he said finally. "So do I," Lisa replied. That evening, David was waiting for her at home with dinner from their usual place. He seemed nervous, which was unusual for him. "How did your big presentation go?" he asked. "Really well, actually. Better than I expected." "Good, good. Listen, Lisa, I've been thinking about us lately." She looked up from her food. "What about us?" "You've been different these past few months. Not bad different, just different, and I keep waiting for you to go back to how you were before, but you're not." Lisa put down her fork. "How was I before?" "I don't know, easier. More relaxed. You used to care about making me happy. I still care about your happiness. I just also care about my own now." David shifted in his chair. "But that's the thing. It feels like you care about your happiness more than mine these days." Lisa stared at him. "For 5 years, I cared about your happiness more than my own. I never complained when you canceled our plans. I watched shows I didn't like and went to restaurants I didn't enjoy, and listened to you talk about your work while never mentioning mine. Is it really so terrible that I want some balance? I never asked you to do any of that. You didn't have to ask. I could see what made you comfortable, and I made myself into that person. And now you can't be that person anymore. Lisa thought about the presentation, about standing in front of that room and finally saying what she really thought. She thought about her paintings, messy and honest and completely hers. "No," she said, "I can't be that person anymore." David nodded slowly. "Then I don't think this is working." The words should have hurt more than they did. Lisa felt sad, but also something like relief. They had been trying to fit together for 2 years, but she had been doing all the bending and reshaping. Now that she was standing up straight, they didn't fit anymore. "I don't think it is either," she said. That night, after David left, Lisa sat in her apartment surrounded by the evidence of her old life. Everything matched. Everything was perfect. Everything was exactly how she thought it should be. But it didn't feel like her anymore. She pulled out a canvas and started painting. Not the careful landscapes she used to do, but something wild and colorful and free. She painted until the sun came up, covering the canvas with layers of every color she could find. When she finally stepped back, she realized she had painted herself. Not her face or her body, but her spirit. All the parts of her that had been hiding for so long. Finally free to take up all the space they needed. 6 months later, Lisa sat in a coffee shop across from a young woman named Jenny who reminded her of herself from years ago. Jenny worked at a marketing firm downtown and had reached out after hearing about Lisa's new consulting business. "I don't know how you did it," Jenny said, stirring her coffee nervously.
"How did you just leave your job and start over?"
Lisa smiled, remembering when questions like that seemed impossible to answer. "I didn't plan it, if that's what you're asking. I just got tired of pretending to be someone I wasn't." After the presentation that changed everything, Lisa's boss had offered her a promotion. Not Kevin's promotion, but a different one, with more responsibilities and a bigger office. For a moment, she had been tempted. It was everything she thought she wanted. But sitting in that meeting, listening to him explain how she could advance if she learned to work within the system, Lisa realized she didn't want to work within a system that had made her invisible for so long. "I think I need to try something different," she had told him. Starting her own business had been scary in a way that felt completely different from her old fears. Before, she had been afraid of failing, of being rejected, of not being good enough. This fear was cleaner somehow. The fear of jumping off a cliff because you finally believed you could fly. The first few months were rough. She had savings, but not enough to feel completely secure. She worked from her apartment, taking on small projects and building a reputation one client at a time. But for the first time in her career, she felt like she was building something that belonged to her. Amy had been her first big break. She left her old company too and hired Lisa to handle all her new agency's strategy work. "You're the best strategic mind I've ever worked with," Amy told her. "I should have stolen you from that place years ago." Now Lisa worked with companies that wanted honest advice, not just someone to agree with their existing plans. She specialized in helping businesses find their authentic voice, which made sense because she had spent so long finding her own. The money part was the hardest, Lisa told Jenny. Not just having less of it, but realizing how much I had been using financial security as an excuse to stay small. Jenny nodded. "I keep thinking about leaving, but what if I can't make it on my own?" "What if you can?" Lisa asked. "I spent so many years asking what if I fail, that I forgot to ask what if I succeed." After Jenny left, Lisa walked to Rachel's studio. It had become part of her routine, stopping by once or twice a week to paint with the community classes or just to be around other people who were creating things. "Look what came in today," Rachel said, showing Lisa a stack of canvases from a new shipment. "Want to try something bigger?" Lisa had been working on small canvases, but something about the large blank space called to her. She set it up on an easel and stared at it for a moment, thinking about everything that had led her to this point. She started painting without a plan, letting colors flow where they wanted to go. Red for the anger she had finally let herself feel. Blue for the sadness of relationships that couldn't survive her growth. Yellow for the joy of discovering she could trust herself. Green for all the new things growing in her life. As she painted, other people in the studio worked on their own projects. A retired teacher working on portraits of her grandchildren. A teenager painting abstract shapes that somehow captured exactly what it felt like to be 17. A businessman who came every Tuesday to paint flowers because it reminded him that beautiful things still existed. "I love watching you paint," Rachel said, cleaning brushes nearby. "You paint like someone who's finally comfortable taking up space." That phrase still made Lisa smile. taking up space. It had taken her 32 years to learn that she was allowed to do that the world wouldn't end if she had opinions and dreams and needs. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mom. How did the Johnson presentation go today? Lisa had presented to 3 potential clients that week. All of them had hired her. The difference between this success and her old job was that now when good things happened, she felt like she deserved them. Great, she texted back. All 3 said yes. Dinner Sunday to celebrate? Her relationship with her parents had gotten stronger since she started being honest about who she was. They had always loved her, but now they knew her too. It turned out that being authentic didn't just change how she felt about herself. It changed how everyone else could relate to her. As evening approached, Lisa packed up her painting supplies. The large canvas was nowhere near finished, but she liked it that way. It was becoming something gradually, the same way she was. Walking home through the city streets, she passed her old office building. Through the windows, she could see people still at their desks at 8 o'clock, probably fixing other people's mistakes or working on projects they didn't believe in. For a moment, she felt sad for her old self, the woman who had spent so many years in that building feeling invisible and unimportant. But mostly she felt grateful. Grateful that she had finally gotten tired of being small, grateful for the courage to jump, grateful for the chance to find out who she really was when she stopped trying to be what everyone else wanted. At home, she made dinner and sat at her kitchen table with her laptop, working on a proposal for a new client. This one was different, though, a non-profit that helped women start their own businesses. When they had called her, the director had said, "We heard you understand what it's like to find your voice after staying quiet for too long." Lisa did understand that, better than she wished she did. Her apartment looked different now, too. Still clean and organized, but with splashes of color everywhere. Paintings on the walls, some hers, some from friends at the studio. Books about business and art and self-discovery scattered on tables. Plants by the windows that she actually remembered to water. It looked like someone lived there. Someone with interests and passions and a life that belonged entirely to her. Before bed, she stood in front of the bathroom mirror like she had that night months ago when everything started to change. But this time, looking back at her was someone she recognized. Someone who took up exactly as much space as she needed. No more and no less. Someone who had finally learned to stop pretending she didn't want the life she was living. The woman in the mirror smiled back at her, and for the first time in her adult life, Lisa felt completely at home in her own skin. She turned off the light and went to sleep, already excited about what she might paint tomorrow.